And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the unceded and traditional territory of the Tsimshian people. Handydart, operated by BC Transit, is an accessible, door-to-door shared busing service for people with disabilities, preventing them from using a fixed route transit without assistance from another person. It picks you up at your door and drops you off. On today's Open Connection, Kitimat-Stikine Regional District Manager Bruce Bidgood and President of Skeena Valley Senior Society Diane Penner discuss Handydart system.
So I've been bringing forward some things to the city over the course of time through Skeena Valley Seniors Society, having had that identified as being a problem and recognizing that that's one of the things we can actually advocate for the most effectively at this time. Housing is a really big thing. Social needs is a big topic, right? Transportation is, but it's able to be more easily tackled from the perspective of problems. Identified problem can be solved, or can it? Or how can it be? So based on that type of thinking, we've been interacting with lots of different groups. And so Skeena Valley Seniors, since October, has met with 22 different groups, having meetings, creating action plans, discussions. So basically we're at least once a week, we are in dialogue with somebody, some group, some organization, problem solving or vetting or trying to figure out how we can move forward with transit. And this includes BC Transit, conversations with BC Transit, conversations with the regional district, as you know, because we presented it to you in December, conversations with the City of Terrace, which we presented to in November. And in most cases, the biggest handicap roadblock was accessibility. Yeah. And the ability to be able to go and do the things that increase your ability to be social in your community, to be interactive in your community, to get to your medical appointments. And the stumbling blocks and the roadblocks that are there for these individuals. So Handydart is one of those things that we think of for the most vulnerable. Yeah. We have one Handydart. It doesn't run before 8. It's just shortly before 9 that it's kind of on the road and going.
And stops at 4.
And then it closes down at 4. Yeah. That's problematic for a lot of people with regard
to... I agree.
Yeah.
Well, here's the dilemma. I mean, the current system, I mean, clearly has not been able to meet the needs of all the people who have special transit needs. That can include people with disabilities and people who are seniors who need some special care and special time to be able to access. So I think we have to look at that. I think we have to look at our overall capacity. Is it sufficient? Should the hours be extended? Should there be more service here in Terrace? And I think that those are all valuable things to look at because under the Human Rights Code of Canada, we have an obligation to accommodate people with disabilities and I think that we all want to do that. We want people to be able to fully participate. One of the challenges I'm here today to talk about is I understand it's a real challenge here in Terrace and Thornhill having the service only available 8 to 4. But what if you live in Jackpine?
Well, and remember, it's not 8 to 4, it's 9 to 4, really.
Yeah, true, right? I mean, on paper it might be 8 to 4.
So then if you live in Jackpine, it's even a greater problem.
Absolutely. So if you live in Copperside or Jackpine or New Remo or Lake Isles, what do you do then? Mm-hmm. Now, I've talked to the Handydart people and to BC Transit, and they say, well, we really can't cover it because, in the time that it would take us to go out to Cleanza or Chimdamash, right, it would take the bus out of service for a long period of time where people couldn't book it in town. So I guess, to me, one of the first things that we have to do is, I don't know in a concrete way, other than anecdotal stories that people have told me, but there are some people who live in those remote communities in my area, in Area C, who could benefit from that service. Is it enough to expand hours? Is it enough to bring up a second Handydart? I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point in time, but I know that as I guess it's called silver up, or as our population becomes more senior, there are going to be more and more people there. So I think it's time for us to take a real careful look and go into some of those communities and ask people, would you use the Handydart service if it was available? But in addition, to ask people here in the city of Terrace and in Thornhill about, is it adequate? And then in addition to that is to do sort of a inventory of what's available now, because I understand there are services or equipment that could be used. For example, the taxi company has an accessible van, which I understand is sometimes available, but not always. I mean, can that be better and more efficiently utilized? Terrace View Lodge, I believe, has another van or mobile device that could be used as well. So I think it's time we took a look at the whole picture and said, okay, now right here and talking to you and stuff, the regional district wants to be part of that. And if we received an application from the Seniors Society, I'm sure it would be favorably reviewed in terms of receiving some sort of funding in order to make that happen. There are certain limitations in what we can do. I mean, if we do a review and it says, yeah, you know what, we're only covering half the need, and we're not covering any of the need in the remote areas, then the regional district, I'm sure, will also contemplate providing funding to purchase a second vehicle, because we can do that under the gas tax funds. So we want to be part of the solution, but we want to have a pretty good estimation in terms of what kind of demand are we looking at.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Earlier this year, Government Relations Manager Lindsay Taylor stated that due to internal discussions previously, the province is not likely to expand accessible transport this year or next, anywhere in BC. Let us return to the discussion with Diana and Bruce.
So when we think of the bus system just running down, just transit itself, it's interesting that transit doesn't have any problem running a route that goes out to Gatiss. It doesn't have a problem running a route that goes out to New Remo.
Yeah.
But yet somewhere in there's a problem, because they say that it's a problem to run a Handydart out there. So having said that, the bus runs out to those places. They have on the bus the ability to be able to lower it. They have the ability to be able to ramp it. They have the ability to be able to allow people who have some problems to be able to get on. So if the focus of BC Transit is that, you know what, we have to be at this bus stop at this time, and we don't have time for this person to get on that bus.
I would agree with you. We will never be able to cover the complete need through the regular transit system.
Well, or do we need to think about it a little bit differently? Are we just thinking in the way that we always did before? It is a route, the route is this way, the bus stop is here, blah, blah, blah. BC Transit has a flag policy. If you're out on the highway and the bus is going to Hazelton and you want a bus ride, you can flag them down. That's part of their policy. Why is it that somebody who lives on, let's just be really, that you live on Scott Avenue, there's a bus stop at one end of the street and there's a bus stop at the other end of the street, but you have some sort of a mobility restriction?
Yes.
Regardless of the age. Admittedly, a lot of it is senior-based, because our mobility reduces as we get older, but not everybody is senior-based. So just thinking of the community in general, if you cannot get to that bus stop, but you need to get to someplace, why can you not stand in front of your house, which is in the middle of the street, which is still too far to that bus stop and too far to that bus stop? Why can't you not just stand there and flag down the bus? Like, it's all about how we think. Mm-hmm. It's not about how we operate. And yet, for some reason, we have this fixed plan. You want a Handydart right now, you have to go and fill in this 4-page application, which includes legal representation, which includes a recommendation from a doctor that says, I'm sorry, but you need it.
Yes.
Why does that have to be a barrier? Transportation is transportation. Why do you have to have that in order to get that? First of all, a lot of seniors, if we're looking in that direction, or people who are not literate, like if we think of the community that we're limiting, If our objective in our community is to provide transportation, then why should we limit people by giving them an online application that's 4 pages long that requires a medical professional to say that you can't make it there? How many people already are stumbled up just by that?
It's a really good point.
So online, in Terrace, on the website, it doesn't show the location of our transit. It shows a location in front of them, which isn't even their building at all. It gives a Kitimat phone number. Like, all these little things are all problematic with regard to accessibility in our community. I went to a meeting at City Hall where we reviewed, we had BC Transit there bringing forward a Handydart report. The Handydart report was misconstrued. It was based on data that came from the COVID time, so it was full of information that didn't have anything to do with what we're actually doing. So I don't know how we can come up with some sort of a recommendation based on that. They suggested 8 different options as a possibility. They gave a costing of expansion just to Sunday of $38,000 to the city. If you figure that doesn't include they're saying it's $95,000 to add Sunday. That's what Handydart is saying to us, right? Or BC Transit is saying to us. If you figure that out, just the government, our municipal, regional tax dollars, whatever, at $38,000, that's $100 per hour for the amount of hours that they're saying that they could provide this service for. $100 per hour. You know, like, if this is supposed to be a service, at $100 per hour, we can do it commercially ourselves. And we can actually make money at that. We can buy something, we can gas it, and we can fuel it at $100 an hour and prorate the cost of that bus to do it. But BC Transit and transportation is supposed to be a right for us, like you were talking about. So where are we in that? You know.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. The BC Transit works in partnership with 59 local governments. In most communities, the local BC Transit service is provided through a partnership between BC Transit, local government, and a contracted transit operation company. Let us return to the conversation as Bruce asked Diana if the needs of the communities are being met.
What the need is that's not being met.
Yeah.
And figures like this, I agree with you, are to some degree misleading because they miss key points. They look at, this is what it costs for the number of trips we're doing now. But what is the cost of somebody not being able to get into the hospital? An opportunity cost of somebody not being able to come and buy groceries. What are those costs? They're never looked at in examination. I think that you hit you touched it right on the nose when you said maybe we need to think about this differently. Is that everybody that transportation now is looked at as a service, but it should be looked at as a right. Particularly in an area here where, it's nothing for residents in Northwest BC to travel to the all-native basketball tournament 300 kilometers or to Smithers for 400 kilometers, things like that. We really are reliant upon our vehicles. Somebody who does not have access to transportation is at a distinct disadvantage living in the north. And instead of looking at, well, this is what we provide, why don't we look at, well, they have a right.
Right.
To transit and to accessibility the same way that other people have a right. And because they are a special need, their right is also enshrined in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Canadian Constitution. So, it's not just about providing service, it's about, how do we meet people's rights associated with, people with disabilities or seniors being able to access the same kind of things that other people do who have access to transportation.
If you're going for medical care, you may, if you live in Terrace, have medical care in Kitimat. Yep. You may have medical care in Prince George, or you may have medical care in Prince Rupert or Vancouver. Yeah. But those just that outreach, just Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert, and Prince George is common for a lot of stuff that goes on, whether it's ears, eyes, feet, toes, or something else. Because we disperse the way that we do stuff in our community that way. So you have a broken arm, maybe now you're going to Prince Rupert or you're going to Kitimat and you're not getting it done here. Hard to say what's going to happen with this regional hospital, but having said that, it could be the opposite way for people from those communities coming in. We have a problem with our transit system locally for sure.
Yeah.
How that works within our other communities is interesting because BC Transit in our region is operating Terrace to Kitimat,
yes,
out of our local PW transit contractor office, and Terrace to Hazelton. Admittedly, there's something different from Rupert, but we don't have anything that goes from the Queen Charlotte's all the way down. We have no sort of a means of transportation at all. It's not just about the Highway of Tears, it's about that for everybody who needs that, one way or the other. We need a transit system that goes provincially, that gives access. We need something that's affordable, that's accessible. It's not just our local group that we're fighting for, but right now we're fighting for our local group because that's the easiest to deal with. So what do you think about the premise of double shifting? We have one Handydart that sits idle before 8 and sits, or before 9 and sits idle after 4. Why could we not use that same vehicle and add another shift to it? Why do we have to have a whole new bus there?
I feel very strongly that we don't get a great deal when it comes to healthcare here. I have a friend, Todd, I think you know him, who had bad heart condition and things of that nature. He's disabled, he can't work and things like that, but they require him on a regular basis to be able to get down to Vancouver or to other places in order to be getting tested, like Prince George and places like that, to get tested and things. And a lot of times people are expected to cover that cost themselves, or to use a system like the bus service for Northern Health and things of that nature, which is not ideal for somebody who's in ill health in some circumstances as well. I've always believed quite strongly that if you're a resident of British Columbia, you have a right to a certain amount of health care, a modicum of health care, just like somebody in Vancouver does. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand it's a lot more expensive to provide it here because we just don't have the numbers to justify that. But I mean, we should come up with some system to be able to adjust for that. Like, for example, if somebody goes down to Vancouver for an angioplasty or something like that, we may not be able, the government may not be able to provide it. We may not have jets that we could shut. But the person certainly should be able to pay it out of pocket and then be reimbursed on their taxes at the end of the year or something of that nature, right? It can't just always be about not providing services to people in northern areas because we don't have the numbers. We understand we might have to go to other places for healthcare and stuff like that, but don't make us pay for it in addition to that, more than people would down in the Lower Mainland. Yeah. As per your comment about double shifting, I guess to me it seems like a reasonable idea if there's a demand for people to use the Handydart system after 4 o'clock. And the challenge that we were just talking about a little earlier is, can we get operators? Can we get people who can drive for those times too? Because I know a lot of organizations are experiencing real problems in terms of staff shortages and stuff. So I think it's a great idea. I think we should explore it, and that should be part of an evaluation, like I said, a feasibility study, where you sat there and said, okay, not only do we have the equipment, do we have the people who can operate that equipment?
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
A feasibility study is a preliminary exploration of a proposed project or undertaking to determine its merits and viability. A feasibility study aims to provide an independent assessment that examines all aspects of a proposed project. In this final segment of Open Connection, Diana remarks on a 2012 feasibility study.
On an ongoing basis, we re-study things.
Yeah.
So in 2012, there was a BC Transit review done here.
Yeah.
The very same concerns that are listed and mentioned and talked about today are already in the report from 2012.
Yes.
There have been a few minor changes with regard to the route as a result of that review. But all those things that were tied to Handydart, for example, accessible transportation, those questions have not changed. Those questions have not been dealt with. Those questions have not been resolved in any way, shape, or form since then. So what do? We've just done a needs assessment and identified the need. Mm-hmm. Then we did a survey. The survey identifies the need again. So I don't know how many nonprofit groups that are involved socially in our community for the social benefit of the community have to come to the plate and say, look, there is a problem here. Do we need another study to identify that there's a problem?
That's a good point.
There's a problem.
Well, like I said, I think that for me, from the regional district, I think we would certainly like to investigate the unmet need, not only in Thornhill and Terrace, but also in the surrounding, the greater Terrace area, because I know that there are a lot of people who are not able to get in and out of Terrace the way they'd like because there is no Handydart service there. Yeah. I'd like to get a better scope of that, and like I said, I think the regional district can be instrumental on it. If it's found that, there's really a need both within Terrace and Thornhill and in the outlying area, we want to be part of the solution. Like let us help buy another van, or let us help. We might not be able to pay bus drivers, but we might be able to purchase another van or something of that nature, right? And I mean, hopefully by doing that, we'll be able to play our role in solving some of these difficulties.
So Helping Hands has just bought a handicap van. So here we have nonprofits stepping up to do the work that should have been done, or that should be done provincially, that should be done locally, that should be done regionally. Yeah. It's a shame because they've spent $30,000 to get a handicap van because this need has not been met.
Yes.
That $30,000 is money that ideally would be going to people to travel out of our community.
I could see that, yeah.
And unfortunately now, because they feel that that's a more pressing role to get people from their homes to places that they... So this cab system is a wonderful system in principle, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, I hear you.
It doesn't work because the dispatchers don't communicate effectively to get people to where they're going. So as the sort of extending opportunity, which is the taxi when Handydart isn't around, it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, Helping Hands has said, okay, it obviously isn't working. Let's spend this very important money that one nickel at a time they earn it. Yep. Not one single penny of what they earn is going to administration or anything. It goes directly to people.
Yeah, well, the other one is I commend, Ron and Mavis are personal friends of mine. And, the work that they do at Helping Hands is unparalleled in terms of what it means to our community. I don't want to take them out of the equation because they do such great work and they can do it with a degree of informality that we certainly can't do with government, so they can be much more flexible. Yeah. But I think I hear what you're saying. The fact that they felt the need to buy another van speaks to a need in general. Yeah. And maybe we come up with a system that has that. I mean, taxi doesn't work all the time, as you suggest. Handydart, maybe there's a regional district Handydart that patches in there too, in addition to Helping Hands. Maybe we can put them all together. Well, ready for this to make a quilt of accessibility. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Between identifying the needs and identifying that our regional government and our municipal government actually want to resolve this, I think we can find a solution.
We want to. Yeah. I mean, that's why I came here today, is I wanted to communicate that. I came out of budget meetings yesterday. We clearly want to be part of the solution.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.